Hey, Pathfinders, welcome back to Light the Path podcast. I'm your host, Deborah the Queen. Thank you so much for joining in on another episode of Light the Path podcast. You are definitely going to enjoy this conversation. Look, let me read this intro to you. Today's guest is Debbie Simmons, keynote speaker, author, leadership strategist, and the CEO of Anchor Point. Known as the legacy architect, Debbie helps high capacity leaders move from success into significance by teaching that where you place your trust determines the legacy you build. Are there any legacy builders here? Are there any leaders here that need this today? If so, press pause. If it's not you, send this to someone you love that is. Okay, look, through her frameworks like the architect of trust and the obedience engine, she equips leaders to lead with clarity, alignment, and impact without burnout. Did you know it was possible? Look, help me welcome Pathfinders Debbie to Light the Path podcast.
Hi, it's good to be with you tonight.
Yes, thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate your time and consideration to this topic because it's needed. We need
Yeah.
to know how we can get in line, get clarity without burnout. For listeners who are just getting to know you, was there a moment in your leadership journey where you realized success alone was not the goal?
Yes, definitely. I think all of us experienced that, right? There came a moment when everything around me looked successful, but something inside didn't feel quite right. And this is what I call this kind of question of, is there more or what's kind of going on? And we don't know how to name it. I was exhausted. I was overcommitted and always trying to keep it all working, right? On the outside, I was winning. I was successful. I'm doing all the things. People looked at me and went, "Oh, you're great. You can do all this." On the inside, I felt like I was sprinting on a treadmill over and over and over, and it never stopped. And that was the moment I realized that success wasn't the true goal for me. What was the true goal was finding alignment. So I'll just give you an example. I remember after one of my speaking engagements and ours, a speaking event, and I had done everything right. It was a successful event. Everybody was excited. I had the platform, the applause, and the calendar, but no peace. And that was the nudge that said, "Debbie, are you going to keep building impressive things, but not let me be the architect over helping it last?" And that's when I started asking the question, what was my success built on? Because that is the framework that we got to figure out, or it will figure us out, one of the two, right?
Debbie, so good. Are you my sister, cousin, friend? Because I'm like, wait a minute. She reading my resume. Ooh, so good. I mean,
Yeah.
so on point. And this is the thing. When we as women, I'm talking to the women listeners today, lean into this because this is definitely going to help you because when we look at our similarities, we have more similarities than differences. All
Very
that
much.
you were saying, I feel like you were reading me, but I know that a listener is feeling the same way.
Yeah,
So,
very much so. It's amazing how it resonates with all of us, right? That's the deal,
mhm,
is we just have to recognize it and lean
yeah,
in.
lean
So,
in. You
mhm,
teach something called the architect of trust.
mhm.
For someone hearing that phrase for the first time, how do you explain it in simple terms? And why does trust make so much difference in leadership and legacy?
Yeah. Okay, good. I love this thing called the architect of trust, but people go, "I don't know exactly what that is." And so let's talk about it. It's really easy. It's about asking one question: what is your life really built on? And will it hold up when pressure hits. Okay. Every habit, relationship, or decision is anchored in what we trust. Okay. If we trust the wrong things like control, approval, hustle, it will eventually collapse on us. But if we build like on things like for me, I like to build on God's voice, healthy systems, and obedience. We create a foundation that will hold up even when it's under pressure. And ultimately, it'll leave a legacy. So, this, I try to pull examples for you for everything. Like I lead tons of teams and initiative, and I raise a family, I have 9 children, and showing up for everyone. But underneath, I was trusting a system I had outgrown. I was overworking,
Mm.
pleasing, and fixing everything, thinking it was faithfulness. And it
Mhm.
wasn't. It was actually, if I slowed down and I listened, it was actually fear in disguise. Once I started naming it, that was when I realized what I was trusting, and everything shifts. And that's when the architecture of trust became more than a tool, it became a lifeline. So it's a way to understand where our legacy is leaking so that we can turn it around and make the adjustments that we need to do. And it will build a foundation for us of success.
Listen, y'all are getting a master class from Debbie today, okay? Y'all take this in. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure when I give her social media information that you connect with her because this is master class information, okay? What are some common places leaders put their trust that quietly lead to pressure and burnout?
Okay, if any of your girlfriends are like me, okay, some of the most common places are control. Who doesn't want to be in control, right? Hustle, okay? What about image and people pleasing, or I like call it sometimes over mothering? These things work until they don't. They actually give us quick results, but they're not built to last. Okay. Eventually, they cost us connection, clarity, or our health. And I guarantee you, I've done every one of those. Okay. And the hard part is here's the deal, in our society today, they're rewarded. Okay.
Mm.
People cheer us on for trusting what's actually draining us in many ways. Okay. So for me, I deeply trust control. I love it. Okay. I thought if I could manage every detail, home, business, ministry, it would hold all together. And like,
Mhm.
you know, I think God gave me kids so I could learn quickly. I can't control anything, and I needed 9 to really teach me a lesson, but
Yes.
that kind of control is not sustainable, okay? I looked organized, but I felt spiritually off, and I had to learn to trade control for obedience and image for intimacy, and that's where real legacy, ultimately begins, right? So,
You are so right. You are helping us today, and I'm so thankful for it. You created the obedience engine, which
yeah.
is not language we hear, often in leadership spaces.
Yeah.
What does obedience actually look when it's unlocked for leaders to feel unstuck and overwhelmed? What does that obedience look like?
Okay, obedience. Okay, so when we're stuck and we're overwhelmed, it's kind of like the fog comes in and it's like, where do I go from here, right? So obedience actually will clear the fog. The truth is that the fog is often our path. Okay, and we have
Mm.
to go through it. And then that pain ultimately becomes our purpose a lot of times. Okay, but when we're sitting in it, we can often feel when you're like overwhelmed, it's usually because you're trying to do too much from your own strength. So, obedience isn't about having a perfect plan, it's about doing the next best thing. It unlocks peace, direction, and alignment. And we run from that word obedience, but it actually is the wonderful boundary that helps us figure out how to thrive. So we stop performing, and ultimately we're partnering with God in this journey. And I'll give you an example. God kind of nudged me to write the book, The Heart of Legacy. And I, didn't know what would come of it. I wasn't about selling a book. It was strictly obedience. Okay. And literally, when I wrote it at first, before everything, and I saved it on the computer, I finally just had to say, okay, this is my gift to God, period. I don't care where it goes, what it does, anything. I am just being obedient. And when I finish, can I just shut it up and forget about it? Right. Okay. And, I never realized that, eventually that step opened doors I never expected. It helped me slow down. It recentered me, and it shaped a message, that mattered more than metrics. And it wasn't the opposite of hustle, and it worked. It was the opposite of hustle, and it actually worked. And something beautiful came out of it, and a book that's blessed people and things like that. So that's been part of that journey. But we run from that word obedience, but obedience is actually a blessing for us in disguise, that we sometimes just don't recognize. So,
Mm, you are so right. I mean, and
mhm.
also for me, the Lord has been speaking to me with the slow obedience is disobedience, Deborah. And I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna do
I,
I'm
I
gonna
wasn't
do
going to
it.
go there, girlfriend, but that's true.
I'm gonna do it, but can you give me a second? No, go ahead and go. Ooh, so I'm glad. I'm thankful the way you put this because it's very imperative for us to move when God says move, right? And to say that your book was a gift to God, I mean, isn't that so beautiful that you thought that? Because now look at all the things that it
Yeah.
has helped open doors to.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, one of the things that I love that, love is a strong word, but I'm learning to love, is, over the years, he has taught me obedience. And I used to like do what you do. I used to argue a lot, right? Now I realize there's such good things that come from it that I, I just am like, okay, God, can I always be a yes girl before you even ask? And I've gotten to the point because the things are so big and so out there that I'm just like, yes, I don't need to know any details. Just tell me the next step. That's all I want to know. And I'll do the next step. And then you can tell me the next one. But I'm like, what a beautiful picture of us learning to trust our daddy God when we say, because most kids, they just run around so carefree. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
dude, you don't even know where your next bite's coming from. I know, but it'll be here. And I'm like, okay, and so that's what he wants from us is just that, willingness to lean in and go, okay, yes, I know you're writing a good plan with me, and I know you got a good plan for me, and I can trust you. And so that is what obedience allows us to do. And that it's really cool if we can fall in love with it. So falling in love with the journey, I think, is the big deal on this.
Absolutely. Lord, I'm standing right behind my sister Debbie. Okay. When
You're
she's
not behind me. You got to catch up, girlfriend.
she's leading the way by saying, yes, just tell me the next step. She is leading the way, and I am going to follow suit. I am getting in
Good.
line. I am saying yes to the next step. So that, ooh, so
I
good.
know.
So
And
good.
then when he tells us to do something, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be good, but I'm doing
Yes. So if
it.
a leader is listening right now, this is my final question.
Yeah.
If a leader is listening right now and feels tension between who they are and who they are becoming,
Mhm.
what is the next trust decision you would invite them to make?
If this was me, this is the question I'd be leaning in to ask. I would ask, who has my ear?
Mm,
Who am I listening to? Because where your trust goes, your next step follows. Okay. So it's your thoughts become your emotions become your actions, right? Thoughts, emotions, actions. And so whatever I'm feeding in is going to be, it's going to change everything. So when you feel that inner stretch, it's usually God. Okay. When we feel that, I don't quite know what to do. And it's usually God inviting you into more. But to move forward, you have to trust his voice over the other voices that you hear, like fear, approval, or performance. Okay. So, and guess what? He's not going to take those other voices away. He's going to see if we'll lean in and continue to listen to his voice. And when we do, it drowns out the others, but they're still going to show up, and we've got to be prepared. But if we're listening and we're tuned in, then it's going to make a really big deal. So the decision isn't to become someone else, it's to become more of who he's made us to be. And so as I, have grown in my wisdom, over the years, now that I'm a little older, as I've shifted from a high output leadership type mindset to a legacy minded leadership, I had to stop trusting productivity and start trusting presence. I no longer need to impress people. I need to stay obeying God. That trust decision changes the rhythms of my life, my work, even my home life. I became more of me, not less. But I had to trust the process and trust him in the process. And so that is what I would say is, who has your ear and where is your eye? Because that's what we have that we can make a difference in today.
Absolutely. Let everyone know where they can connect with you on social media.
Sure. You can go to thedebbie.simmons.com. That is my website. And then I have a special gift for your listeners. It's my book, The Heart of Legacy: How to Live a Focused, Faithful, and Fearless Life. This is a wonderful kind of step for how you move in this direction. You can have it for free. You just go to theheartoflegacy.com. And it's a blessing to people, and it will tell you more of my story, but it also in the center section is full of good nuggets that will help you in your journey, to fall in love with this obedience and fall in love with Jesus more.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And listen, Pathfinders, I will make sure to put all her information right here in the description box so that way you would not have to write it down or anything like that. This is season 6, Closer Than Before. And remember, Pathfinders, that sharing our experiences is not only empowering, it can help light the path.